Honey is one of the only food substances that does not spoil. It's difficult for bacteria to thrive in honey due to its high concentration of glucose and fructose. After a while, honey may look like it has gone bad because it crystallizes. However, when honey hardens, you just need to heat it back up. Honey isn't bad for you either. In fact, many scientists believe that humans could live on honey alone. Honey has many health benefits. It can relieve a sore throat and boost the immune system. It can also nourish your skin and relieve indigestion. Sweet! Winning a gold medal in the Olympics is a reward like no other. But are the medals really made out of gold? Not entirely. Solid gold medals are very expensive and have not been awarded to Olympians since 1912. Since then, Olympic gold medals have only contained a small percentage of gold. While the design of the medal is determined by the host country, the IOC does maintain some rules about the medal composition. The gold-plated gold medals are made mainly of silver, but must contain a minimum of 6 grams of gold. The monetary value of the 2014 gold medals was approximately $550.
Every year, about 10 million tons of paper winds up in American landfills and incinerators, which is not only wasteful but adds CO2 to the atmosphere. Recycling helps, but even that material has to be repulped and paperized before you can use it to print out that recipe you'll never make. But what if you could wipe the page clean and use it again? Light amplification by simulated emission of radiation to the rescue. A new study shows that laser light can erase the toner from a piece of printed paper. The approach appears in the Proceedings of the Royal Society A. Taking a page from the Art Restoration Handbook, scientists sampled a variety of light sources to see if any could be used to strip the ink from laser-printed documents without damaging or discoloring the paper. UV and infrared were too harsh. But a bright green laser applied in 4 nanosecond pulses vaporize the print, leaving paper that looks as good as new. Such imprinters will probably run about $30,000, so they probably will not catch on for home use. But people in the recycling world might find that the green laser fits the bill for making paper that's really green.
Jack Nicholson, playing the crazed caretaker in The Shining, makes me reach for a blanket. Now, a study finds that people we find, well, creepy can actually make us feel colder. The research will be published in the journal Psychological Science. Researchers interviewed 40 college undergraduates. During each interaction, the experimenter was either chummy with the student or very stiff and professional. The investigator also alternated between mimicking students' posture, a signal of rapport, and not doing anything at all. Participants then completed a questionnaire designed to find out how hot or cold they felt. The results showed that the subjects actually felt colder when the investigator acted inappropriately or sent mixed signals. The researchers conjecture that because the brain tries to interpret social cues and purely physical ones simultaneously, people unconsciously associate icy stares and chilly interactions with actual physical coldness. So the next time you have to visit your doctor with the creepy receptionist, bring a sweater.
A hurricane is a massive storm system. In fact, it's the most powerful type of storm on Earth. Hurricanes form over warm tropical waters and frequently move toward land. Before I forget to mention this, hurricanes are also called typhoons or cyclones. It depends on where exactly they form. Not all hurricanes are alike. Some are, more powerful than others. Meteorologists have a rating system for them. They use the term category to rank every hurricane that forms. The scale ranks hurricanes according to their wind speed and ability to cause damage. A Category 1 hurricane is the weakest. A Category 5 hurricane is the most powerful. A hurricane typically begins as a tropical storm. It has wind speeds between 50 to 100 kilometers per hour. When the wind blows faster than 100 kilometers per hour, the tropical storm has become a hurricane. A Category 1 hurricane's winds are between 100 to 130 kilometers per hour. A Category 2 hurricane has winds up to 160 kilometers per hour. Winds between 160 and 185 kilometers per hour indicate a Category 3 hurricane. A Category 4 hurricane has wind speeds up to 220 kilometers per hour. Anything above that is a Class 5 hurricane. Thankfully, those are quite rare. They are simply devastating when they form and make landfall. Oh, by the way, before you ask, typhoons and cyclones use different measuring systems. So what I just described only applies to hurricanes.
Okay, today's our first class, so I'd like to begin with some important definitions. We're going to use these terms all semester, so pay close attention. To begin with, chemistry is basically the study of matter. Matter is everything that makes up the universe. In this class, we're going to study the various elements and how they interact with one another. Sometimes they unite. When two or more elements unite, we call them compounds. Now, the study of chemical compounds is divided into two main branches of chemistry: organic chemistry and inorganic chemistry. Organic chemistry is the study of compounds that contain the element carbon. This basically covers, it covers all living things. Carbon is an element all living organisms have in common. As for inorganic chemistry, it's the study of non-carbon-based compounds. There are 5 differences between organic and inorganic compounds. Listen carefully to these. First, there are more than 10 million carbon compounds. That's 10 times the number of inorganic compounds.
Why are there so many carbon compounds?
Mostly because carbon bonds easily with other elements. It can also form complex groups. Got it? Okay, second, organic compounds melt and boil at lower temperatures than inorganic compounds. Third, organic compounds don't dissolve in water as easily as inorganic compounds. Fourth, organic compounds catch fire more easily than inorganic compounds. However, inorganic compounds conduct heat and electricity more easily. Finally, organic compound reactions take place at slower rates than do inorganic compound reactions.
A volcano is a vent in the earth which erupts when hot liquefied rock or magma moves to the earth's surface, pouring out as lava. The lava may flow out as a liquid, or it may explode from the vent as solid or liquid particles accompanied by superheated gases. Ash and cinders form a cone around the vent. There are several types of volcanoes. The most fluid magmas erupt quietly and flow from the vent to form gently sloping shield volcanoes. The name shield volcano comes from their resemblance to the shields of early Germanic warriors. The lava flows from shield volcanoes are usually only 1 to 10 meters thick, but may extend for great distances from the vent. The volcanoes of Hawaii and Iceland are typical volcanoes of this type. Cinder cone volcanoes are formed when magmas with high gas contents and high viscosity are blown high into the air during an eruption. The magma falls as volcanic bombs, which accumulate around the vent and form steep-sided cones. Calderas, large basin-like depressions, are formed when a violent eruption blows the top off of an existing cone, or when the center of a volcano collapses. One famous caldera covers much of Yellowstone National Park. 600,000 years ago, there was a huge volcanic explosion which devastated the landscape. At the center, there remained only a smoldering caldera, a collapsed crater more than 40 miles wide. Yellowstone's famous geysers and hot springs lie within this giant basin.
When parents are asked how they handle their very unruly children, most will admit that they are likely to use physical forms of punishment. This is not to say that a parent generally hits their child each and every time they are bad. Nevertheless, parents generally use physical punishment as a last resort, after having unsuccessfully tried other forms of discipline with children who have become very bad. Those who believe in physical punishment, however, are unaware of the fact that it does not lead to better children. In fact, the opposite is true. Research findings show that children from homes where corporal punishment is the norm exhibit more antisocial behaviour than children whose parents seldom or never hit them. For example, children whose parents systematically use corporal punishment are more often than not behind any classroom disruptions. Such children not only create discipline problems at school, but they are also overly aggressive. In addition, they have extremely low self-esteem and a negative attitude to those around them. On the other hand, children whose parents use less harsh methods of discipline have a healthier attitude towards their school environment and
The Chinese were, as far as we know, the inventors of paper money, and, because it was so easy to move around compared with coins, it was named flying money. They were also the first to experience an economic problem which has become all too familiar. By the 12th century, there was enough money in circulation to cause serious inflation. In Europe, it wasn't until about 1400 that bankers in Spain and Italy began to honour bills of exchange, which were a kind of private paper money not in general use. They were documents used by those involved in a business transaction in which payment was made through a third party to avoid the cost of foreign exchange. However, it is the Swedes who are generally credited with producing the first proper European bank.
When I was pregnant, a friend gave me a book called Great Lies to Tell Small Kids. In it are gems like wine makes mommy charming and men don't go bald naturally, they like getting their hair cut that way. Now, if you're filled with horror at the notion of pulling a toddler's leg like that, a new study in the Journal of Moral Education shows that parents regularly use deception to influence their kids. We can all recall lies our parents told us to get us to do something, or to stop doing something. If you cross your eyes, they could stay that way, comes to mind. But in the current study, researchers found that these parental fibs are hardly few and far between, and that even parents who preach to their kids about the importance of being honest admit to lying to them as well. The researchers plan to extend their studies to see whether all this lying undermines children's trust. Until then, well, keep telling Junior that if he spins around really fast, then stops, his face will skid around to the back of his head. It could keep him busy while Mommy becomes even more charming.
Jerry Seinfeld once said, "The stupidest thing is a helmet law, the point of which is to protect a brain that is functioning so poorly it's not even trying to prevent the cracking of the skull it's in." But helmet laws for kids, who may not have considered their skulls as deeply as Jerry did, aren't so dumb. That's according to a new study in a publication from the Cochrane Collaboration, which is an international organization that evaluates healthcare research. The review looked at 5 studies of kids' bike helmet laws. One big 10-year study in California found that bike-related traumatic brain injury in kids dropped more than 18% after the state's bike helmet law was enacted. A Canadian study looked at almost 10,000 bike-related hospital admissions and found a 45% drop in childhood head injuries in provinces that passed helmet laws. Provinces without helmet laws also saw a drop in the same period, but it was only half as much. And 3 other studies found that helmet laws do indeed persuade kids to wear their helmets, with increases in compliance ranging from 45 to 84%.
It is important to plan your study time carefully. Muscle cells bring parts of the body closer together.